Ka Sorkar Meghalaya Democratic Alliance hagasino kong tayo kala shime karai ban penjalan shwai ke jing penlong ye ke election MDC syaka yen bar Thaw joka Garo Hills Autonomous District Council bat kala terwa ban Pynjari no ada ka administrator rule ni ke jing sensyar jong ulat kat baka Sorkar kampat la ban penlong ye ke election.
Kani karai jong Sorkar kelamit ke jingelang jong kunhun menteri kebelai Taisani ke legamat kebelawan ra dak Tnad District Council Affairs ke jela namar baka samai terekam jong yang dorbar Thaw bamenta jong council kan kutno hakakat praterik risau. Habai keren bakilat patai kubor menteri rang ba ke jela Konrad Kongkal Sangma ula petip ke Sorkar kelarai ban penjelan ke election namar ke jing sapriang jong kelam COVID-19. Bat namar kan ye la menjur ban Pynjari no aswa dak jing sensyar administrator Katkom kapara 16 to jong 6th schedule keriti sensyari kabanne andru benai.
The cabinet today decided to postpone the general elections to the Garo Hills Autonomous District Council to a date to be decided later, depending on the COVID-19 pandemic situation in the state. The second decision that was taken by the cabinet today was the taking over of the administration of the Garo Hills Autonomous District Council by the Governor under Para 16.2 of the 6th Schedule to the Constitution of India.
Kakunhun menteri hakan kejingalang kala shimru ikarai ban Thaw no dak company belatip kum ka Meghalaya Energy Efficiency Limited hapok ke Tnad Bording banwan ra kejing Pynjanai hagar kom terekam heki Pynmih Bording hagajela. Kani kejing Thaw ke company ke desibenta na power sector reforms bala betha ban lek rek Sorkar pedeng ya berok gejela kenang bakin yo shim karam belatip kum ke additional loan baar na kesispa na bank kabalong san na kesispa pat jong ke GHADC jong kejela.
The 2% additional amount which Government of India has agreed has been on the condition of implementation of One Nation, One Ration card, 2. The ease of doing business reforms, 3. The urban local body utility reforms, and 4. Power sector reforms. Therefore, by doing this reform and by achieving higher efficiency in the energy sector, which would ultimately help the overall energy sector in the state, we are also creating this reform which will enable the government also to access the additional debt ceiling that the Government of India has given to all the state governments in the country.
Komisi benta ban pensana mi ki arngut ki orang ba ka jela ki bala klat no na ke perthai. Ke Sorkar jela ke ni ke sni kala shim karai ban ai pensana mi ki dak ba ai kerteng ki artli ki surok ke badan ha ke ni no ba shilong. Kini ki arngut ki rang ba ki de MLA barem ka maulai constituency uba founder strong kaji bad Reverend Dominic Jala Archbishop ke jalan yang ba shilong. Ya uba founder strong kaji la pensanam dak bajer ke surok maulai bypass ha ka kerteng jong u. Kat bayo most Reverend Dominic Jala la pensanam dak bajer ke surok long round road sha FCI go down ha ka kerteng jong u.
That the Maulai bypass road is being proposed and it's been decided that it will be named as Founder Strong Kaji Road. This is the Maulai bypass. It will be named the Founder Strong Kaji Road. The second decision that was taken was the long round road from TSS Road Junction to FCI Go Down is proposed to be named as Archbishop Dominic Jala Road.
Hagni ke jingalang ke kenun menteri ke shimru ikarai banwan ra no ya ke Central Bonded Warehouse bat ki rule batamai jong ke Meghalaya Bonded Warehouse rules kabalong senjam berkentie we ke jingi okajna jong ke Tnad excise bat bentek lakam ya ke jinglat bean ke khajna katkum ke negarai loong babro ki Bonded Warehouse badan ha ke jelai ken hap no hapo ke Central Bonded Warehouse bat ki mar be ki jutiet na ki company ken hap ban shimbet no na ke Central Warehouse.
This central bonded warehouse would be above all the other bonds. And through this central bonded warehouse, the bonds would then purchase all the necessary products through the central bonded warehouse. The purpose and objective of setting this bonded warehouse is multiple. Number one, the ad valorem that was being collected from the different bonds, there are 44 bonds in the state, will now be paid by this particular central bonded warehouse. This will ensure that the revenue collection is from one source, which would mean that it would reduce the chances of any kind of leakage in revenue. If that existed, it would ensure that it would plug those particular loopholes and it would plug those particular gaps in the system. Number two, this would also allow the bonds to function in a much more economical manner because they would not have to purchase large quantities directly from the factory. They would be able to take as their requirement is from the central bonded warehouses. Third, these bonds would also be given a minimum profit margin eligibility of 8%. This aspect was not there earlier, and the bonds were not given any assurance in terms of percentage. But for the first time, the bonds will receive a minimum profit margin of 8%. And further, the bonds will not have to pay the ad valorem anymore. The ad valorem pressure or the ad valorem payment will go to the central bonded warehouse. Hence, the financial implications on the bonds also would reduce. This would in no way impact the revenue and the profit structure and profit margin of the retail shops. This particular bonded warehouse would be based on a competitive bidding process, which the process will start as we have cleared the cabinet in the cabinet today. And we are sure that with the implementation of this particular proposal of having the central bonded warehouse, the overall revenue of the excise department and the state government would jump manyfold.
Namar gajing kena percaya ke Sorkar ba ke penslor ki kam kai bea nyu do yong ha gejela. Menteri rang ba gejela kini kesni ulah kentat ba kedon gajing kai bea nyu do yong. Bat kentui kinong kena bat kum joru kinong song snong gejela baken penkelano ekor kom perkat bakem de satya ban sumudur bagi trok ke do yong ke bea ya surok ki de ki ba kai bea nyu do yong. Namar bon ki trok ki de ki badon ya ki kot ki slag babiang. Ulang bang Sorkar keladak betha egi bor Sorkar baro bakim de satya ban ailat ya kajing kai bean yu do yong bat bakin pengat ya ki bale bean ha ki kendon ki bateng e.
Yeah, I'm seeing this in one paper that comes out every day. But I think these allegations are completely baseless. We've been very, very clear that no such activity is being allowed. Any kind of movement that does take place with paper and with proper documentation. I think it's sometimes I feel very strongly that sometimes any movement that takes place on the highway, people think it's coal movement. And when people see a coal truck, they think it's always illegal. So I think that kind of a mindset also needs to change. Just because a truck is moving, people just seem to jump to the conclusion that, oh, it must be an illegal movement that's taking place. We are very clear. We have taken a lot of strong measures. We've been having meetings again and again with the police department, with the different deputy commissioners, with the transport, with the mining and all the other departments to ensure that this kind of movement is not allowed. And we will also ensure that even in the future, even more and more strict measures are going to be taken. I think you must be aware that we are also in the process of setting up the integrated check gates, which will have all the different technologies like weigh-in motion, like CCTV cameras, which is mandated by the Supreme Court and the NJT for any kind of future movement. So these kind of activities and these kind of measures and technology also are being implemented. So we are very serious about this issue, and we want to ensure that none of such activities takes place. So I think obviously if there is some base, if there is some concerns, if there are some issues that are genuine and valid, then obviously CBI is not an agency that can be just called and used for anything that one would want. So there has to be a proper systematic way in which this has to be approached. So therefore, if there are any issues that are there, definitely we'll look into it. But I don't think there are any allegations that are with any kind of base right now. And for the BJP or any other party to make these allegations on a, just statements like this, I think is really acting very responsibly.
Ka BJP Meghalaya ha kasing Thaw diang kalapan pawe ke jing persya ke bajur lor karai jong Sorkar jela banwan ra ke Central Bonded Warehouse ha ke jela. Bat ong bagani ke jing terwa kadai ke badan buon ki kenrum kenram bat ki jing duna kabala ban penmentoi tangi ki kato kanengut ki brio ki biadai ki riusan partai badan ha ke Sorkar. Kat kum ke kerwo balapha du Presiden uba Ernest Mauri loong bag Central Bonded Warehouse kan penmentoi satya ki sapu sangut ki trai jong ki Bonded Warehouse ha Meghalaya. Hendrai kan penmentoi e tangi ki sangut ki trai ki ban peniat ki jing shalan mar. Uba Ernest Mauri uloong bag BJP ke sengo bag Central Bonded Warehouse kan sonra sekawai pat ka kam bamsap berkejing penjot ke jela. Nalor bakan man ra aru ya kejing sensyar jong ki mafia kombalong mentah nalor kejing bamsap kumbajah ki District Council ka kam Kayi Doyong ka kam Shnabil Bording bat kiwe-kiwe.